Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Abadox, brought to us by Natsume. Abadox is a scrolling sci-fi shooter where you're working your way inside of a giant alien getting to its core in order to defeat it. The game alternates between vertical and horizontal shooter, giving you two different styles of shooter in one game. For the North American release of Abadox, our storyline goes that our home planet of Abadox was swallowed whole by this evil alien menace known as Parasitus. Our job is to go inside the alien and destroy it from the inside out. Our goal also is to maybe save the princess, who may be located still alive inside of the alien. After our brief intro, we go into the first level of the game. In Abadox, there's lots of different power-ups to pick up, including speed boost, armor boost, and lots of different weapons. Right there, I picked up the first upgrade, a speed boost, which obviously is marked with the letter S. The next thing I just picked up was an upgrade to my weapon, which gave me a different type of blast. You're only allowed to have one of this blast out on screen at once, and it ends up not being nearly as good as some of the other later weapons, but it's solid for now. In Abadox, like many other shooters, you die in only one hit, but you can get a few extra upgrades that are marked with the letter P, which will give you a shield to withstand one hit, and you can pick up another one to have 2 total pieces of health. The key to Abadox and all scrolling shooters is it comes down to practice, playing the game over and over again, knowing when the enemies are going to spawn, knowing what your movements are, and what's the best weapon to take out each of the enemies. Here's the first mini-boss in the game. This guy is pretty easy to contend with. Stay near the left side of the screen and keep blasting him every time he lands. Just be careful because he does fire a projectile rather close to you, but after a second of your fire, if you move up, you should be able to dodge that projectile coming at you pretty closely. As well, if you have any of the force fields rotating around you, they can also deflect the blast from this monster. It takes a good amount of hits, but just stay on the left side, you should have no problem being able to get through this battle. Thankfully, a lot of the battles in Abadox may seem tough at first, but they end up having 1 or 2 spots where you can float and stay, and be able to defeat an enemy without really being in any real danger. After that boss is taken care of, we're actually going inside the alien. Once inside the alien is really where the game starts to get a little bit tougher. You now have a ceiling as well as a ground to contend with, and if you accidentally run into it, you'll instantly die. The weapon that I just picked up gives us a nice 5 spread shot, which will work rather well for the rest of this level. Be careful here that you don't run into the giant tongue, as well as that you can dodge the drips as they're coming down from the ceiling. Make sure to grab the letter P, because that'll give us that force field, which is 1 extra hit. I also picked up the missiles, which will allow me to shoot missiles along with my normal blast every time I fire. Picking up another missile upgrade will also be key, because that will give you homing missiles. When the barrier that floats around you starts to turn blue, that's about when it's going to run out. So be sure to be careful, or pick up another upgrade to it so that it goes back to full health. Coming up is our first boss battle of the game, as the eyes will come out of this creature, and that's where we actually have to hit it. If you stay right about in the center of the screen where I am, and either go back a little bit farther if you want to, this is a good spot to stand, as you should be able to dodge all the projectiles that come out of it, and keep delivering hits to it to get to the next level. Level 2 begins a different type of screen. You can see now we're actually moving from up to down. We still have walls to contend with, but it's a different perspective, and takes a little bit to get used to. Early on, thankfully, they give us another force field, which we now flash red, which indicates that we have 2 free hits for us. Hugging the top part of the screen is probably the most effective way to see what's coming towards you and be able to make the right movements. The weapon I just grabbed is the laser weapon, which is pretty much my favorite throughout the game. However, another one is also rather good, which we'll get a little bit later on. I grabbed the second upgrade to my missiles, which now gives me the homing missiles, which is probably the most effective thing you can get in the whole game. The combination of my missiles and the laser gives me a pretty good weapon arsenal to get through most of the game. Be careful through this area, because not only do we have the enemies coming up at us, we also have the arms trying to reach out and attack you. After a little bit, you get to the next mini-boss. Stay near the top of the screen and work your way around so that you can keep firing at the head of the monster. Staying to the far left should allow you to be able to dodge the projectiles he shoots out, along with delivering shots to him right head on. Once he's been defeated, the area coming up is really tight, so you gotta be sure to be ready with your skills in terms of movement. We have a lot of projectiles coming our way, as well as a lot of normal enemies, and we have some really tight hallways to get through. With the speed upgrade, these areas are really tough at first, so you're gonna have to take a few lives to practice to get used to the moving around here. Also, we have some more of those arms that kinda reach out and grab you, so be prepared for them as well. One thing in Abadox that really plays into your favor is that the hit detection is a little bit off, and it's not something that's really a bad thing. It gives you a little bit of leeway when it comes to projectiles actually hitting you. They pretty much have to hit the dead center of you to actually hurt you. Learning this and getting used to it is pretty much essential to being able to get through the game without losing too many lives. Once the chamber opens up a little bit more, it's time for the boss battle of this stage. You have to hit him directly in the eye. If you have the homing missiles, you can actually not have to dodge at all, because you can just fire from the left or right sides of the center projectile. So you can see right there I was able to deliver a lot of hits. However, if you don't have the missiles, you're going to have to keep dodging in and out every time that center projectile goes by in order to actually deal your damage to it. Once it's defeated, you move on to stage number 3, which is another one of the horizontal scrolling levels. One other thing for the controls is you actually can control the shields that move around you. You actually have two different ways that they can be around you, really up close like they are for me, or if you press the A button you can get them farther away from you. I really prefer to have them much closer to me. I think they're a lot more defensive when they're around you, and they help you a lot more. However, you do have the option of having them a little bit farther away from you. In this area, the homing missiles will really come in handy if you got them, because they'll be able to hit the enemies before you move through the corridor to their area. If not, you're going to have to dodge the projectiles that they fire out while moving through the tight quarters. When the background of the level turns all black, it's time for the mini-boss of this stage, this flying alien fish. He has a lot of projectiles coming at you, and it's really going to be crucial to have at least one or two of the shields going around you to protect you from them. He has 3 different lines that he flies at you, the top, the middle, and the bottom, and then he goes from the bottom back to the middle and then back to the top. Firing directly at him head-on or using your missiles from a distance is an easy way to get past this guy. These fish enemies get a little bit annoying because they come at you and then they back away and come at you again. So getting rid of them is probably a priority over the other enemies right here because they're going to be on screen for a large period of time. The weapon that I have now is not as good as the laser, but it also works pretty well. It's a straight shot, it's very large, and does a lot of damage to enemies. Just like the laser, if you have this along with the missiles, you're going to have a pretty effective weapon against the enemies. This area can get rather tough because you have the plants on the bottom as well as those fish enemies. So just try to do your best, and if you have any protection, use it to your advantage. Here you're going to have a large stream of enemies coming towards you, so just keep firing as you get closer and closer to the stream. When you get an opening, take it and run through, and it's time for the next boss battle. To attack the boss, you're going to have to hit it in the center with the eye that comes out of its chest. If you stand at just the right spot, you'll be able to dodge all the projectiles that come out at him. Right here is the spot you're going to need to stand in order to keep hitting him with your missiles, as well as hitting him with your normal weapon. The problem is with your speed is getting that right exact spot where you're going to be safe as well as can actually deal that damage.